Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Little Lighthouse. I'm Carly, and I'll be your host. I want to welcome Rozz Holzman, the founder and executive director of Create Peace Project. How are you doing today, Ross?
Hi, Carly. Great.
Hey,
Thanks so much for having me.
you are so welcome. It's so good to see your face finally. How's it going? I know you're a new dad. How's it going today with Bia?
Real well, actually. The last few nights have been better. Um,
Good.
some consistency and some sleeping through the night, actually. It was
Wow.
like a light switch went off, and she slept through the night the last 3 nights, except for like being fed at midnight. And yeah, so there's like glimpses of sanity.
Awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
so just a small disclaimer, like 7 months of sleep deprivation may, you know, distort a few thoughts, but here we are. I'm excited to talk. It's been a long, weird year of no work, and so it's fresh to like jump on here and engage with you in this conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm so psyched to talk with you and just talk with you about art. So I know you've done a ton of projects with kids all over the world, 60 over 60,000 kids that you've done art projects of various sorts with, and then you've
Yeah.
done over 30 murals in the Bay Area alone. But you weren't trained as an artist or an educator. So do you want to tell everybody just how you got started on your path and yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you tell me that because it's all true, and it's like I studied marketing in college and spent 5 years in sales and was completely disgruntled with corporate America. And in my mid 20s, I had, a complete sort of frustration and burnout. And I took an opportunity to go to India in mid 2001 to go work for a call center consulting firm. And I ended up spending a year in India. And in India was where I rediscovered art. And I think it was a response to just the kind of the sensory overload of India and the newness of that whole other world. And I started painting and yeah, reinvigorated my desire for, or just my self-expression, really. And it was when I came back from India, the metaphor I used was, it was kind of like when the space shuttle returns into orbit, it has to like break through at a certain speed. And in Los Angeles in December of 2002, I had this awakening. Basically, I had a massive wake up call in LA after a year in India. The story I used to say was that I moved from the second dirtiest city in the world to the number one dirtiest city in the world. And I popped out, it was sort of like I popped out of my bubble. I popped out of this kind of, nurtured upbringing and kind of pretty little picture of living in the US. And I woke up to like, whoa, there's some major things that I don't agree with and that have been sort of causing me this frustration for a long time. But it took a year in India to really find out who I was and what my relationship to the world was. And then the short story was basically Bush announced we were going to war in Iraq in March of 2003. And that's what's kind of set me on my peace train. Um, and I really started making a lot of art and political art at that. And then um, I went from doing all these political collages to creating giant billboard size banners for peace, I called them. And that was really sort of the kind of the gateway to where I am now, which was, you know, 15 years of doing arts education work based on how do we spread positive messages into the world. Um, so that's kind of the short story of it, but
Awesome. Thanks for
yeah,
sharing that too. It's probably I can imagine I have had a few peak experiences in my life. It's not always something that's easy to share. So can you tell us just a little bit more about the work that you've been doing more recently, and some of your favorite parts of it?
Yeah, perfect. So the last 5 years, I would say, up until COVID, the focus of Create Peace Project's work and my work along with a handful of collaborators has really been around driving community and, more importantly, students in schools to create art together. And so we've been doing mural projects. For many years, it was 4 or 5 painted murals a year at different schools. And then the last sort of 3 years, we were doing mosaics. And so, my role is really as an expert facilitator. And like you mentioned, like I don't have training as an artist. I'm not even really that competent as an artist. I mean, I'm okay. Like I can make some things and I can create some things, but I know how to facilitate and I can work with groups of 500 or 600 students or 300 or however many at a particular school and engage the students and the staff and parents in the creative experience of making something together. And that's really become the crux of our work, is this collaborative, artistic, co-creative process of beautifying our place, beautifying our school, putting a positive message or positive vision into our community or out into the world, and giving people, basically a participation from start to finish in everything from sharing their ideas on what the design will be to, creating every aspect of it and then being part of the installation or the completion.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
Those
great.
videos for people, if you haven't checked out, I can put links to them later, but if you haven't checked out some of the videos of Ross's work, it's so amazing right now, especially when we're like, so cooped up in our houses still, and just to see all these kids working together and they're smiling so huge, it's super inspiring. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to have been on pause now for a year. And you shared the video of our last project, which was basically between November of 2019 and February of 2020, and we worked at this Lakeshore Elementary School in San Francisco, um, and we created a 1,600 square foot mosaic mural that 400 kindergarten through fifth graders helped to create, and then we had 50 or 60 parents support the installation and some of the finishing touches on that project. But um, it's just, it was a profound stretch of, year after year of working in 4 or 5 different schools and leading these huge projects and coordinating and sourcing materials and repurposing all sorts of stuff and giving these kids just highlight type experiences in their elementary years, right? Like um I have one school that wants myself and my team to paint a mural this May, and last May would have been our 5th year in a row, and this would be our 6th year in a row with the same school. So it's like Monroe Elementary in San Francisco, they had a whole renovation at some point to be retrofitted. And then there were all these blank walls, and we've just basically done mural after mural and then a mosaic. And, so it's like, it's so rad to be able to go back year after year to a particular school and watch the kids grow and then, hear what they have to say in a new school year and what we want to create and then watch it happen. And it's been a real honor, to be
Yeah.
gifted with the opportunity to like do this work and play, play with art and with kids and do something fun and meaningful for them.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, like, you're talking about the collaborative process and how important that is, but why art? Like, why do you think art is such a good vehicle for collaborating? You know?
Yeah, I think we all as people are inherently creative, and one of the things that I think gets lost as we grow up is our our willingness or our confidence in our ability to create. And I'm not sure that how and why that happens is important, but for me, um, I had a huge breakthrough in my own understanding of myself and my relationship to the world using creativity, and so my own kind of wake up call happened that way. And then what I realize is that being creative, we shift our awareness from how we look out into the world back onto ourselves. So there's a process of introspection that happens. There's a process of alchemy that happens where we take our thoughts or feelings, and ideas, and we transform them into something real, into something tangible, into something that we can see, into something that we can share. And I think, for me, this kind of personal experience and also the thing that I've witnessed is that art is this tool for self-love, for self-understanding, and for deepening our relationship to the world around us, you know? And not only is it like an expression of who we are and our collective culture, but I think it's just such a essential vehicle for sharing sharing our heart, like you don't get heart without art.
Totally.
And you kids are inherently creative. Like it's the fun thing to do. It's the magic of making something, of play, of making something beautiful and being proud of it. So there's that, there's the empowerment of it, there's the joy of it, there's the fun, right? Like, you tie all these things in there, and there's the peace process of the like, okay, I'm going to look in here to see what I think or feel about the question or the topic or the problem, like creatively finding solutions to the issues that we all are up against right now is critical. And so if you start to give kids the access, or give anyone kind of the reminder that like you're inherently creative and I want to hear what you have to say, and it's not me telling you what you need to think, but actually I want to hear what you think and what you feel and what you believe. um, and art making is just a perfect tool for that dance, for that invitation exchange.
Totally. Yeah, my own experience. It's funny because I've, performed a lot and written songs and poems. And so it's been like art making in a lot of different forms. But I notice for sure as a therapeutic thing when I need it just for therapy, it's
Yeah,
like, you know, there are things that we experience that, you know, other people have experienced them, but like the way we're experiencing them is fresh, it's new. And so I think that's what's so cool about art is you're actually creating what is not describable in any other way. It's like you're bringing something in that hasn't been put down before, and like
right.
reflecting that back at yourself, like what is it that I'm going through, what is it that we are going through as a culture, and um yeah, I think it's amazing how powerful it is in a bunch of different ways, right? Like collectively also and personally, how powerful it can be to practice art.
Yeah, totally. And I think listening to you share there reminds me that, one of the things that I've experienced both personally and witnessing working with kids and adults is that when people start to create, they quiet down, they calm down, they find this state of, not all, and I generalize, but a lot of the time, like kids will come in super excited, and then given the opportunity to paint or to maneuver tile and create something with mosaic, there's like, you drop down a level, you like rest into a meditation of sorts where you're focused and uh, you're doing something that feels good because you want to create something um, that expresses yourself in a positive way. Like, there's plenty of situations where someone might not be able to like get it together, but at its core, I think, it is a meditative practice.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you that too. So that it seems like the collaborative part and the peacemaking part is so essential to what you're doing too. There's the art making, but then there's what you're teaching kids as, or maybe not teaching kids, but what are some of those practices that you have developed over the years, that are about kind of collaboration and the peacemaking part of it? And how could we maybe get some of that in, how could we apply some of that to our adult world? I know you work with adults too, but yeah.
Right, totally. It's interesting, Carly, because rarely with a group of kids do I talk about the concept of peace. It's just, it's almost like, let's stand in a circle, let's acknowledge each other, quietly or with a handshake, or, like the squeezing of the hands or the looking around the circle. Um, the breathing exercises, the calming, the grounding, feel your feet on the ground, right? Acknowledging that this is a space that we're going to like play together, and reminding the kids that we're on a team, right? And like we're working together. Um, peaceful communication skills, right? And just like the ways in which the collaborative experience becomes the peace practice in and of itself, right? Like when kids are given an opportunity to paint on the large stretch of wall, we'll do a couple things. One kid will hold the cup for the other to paint, so it's like, be supportive, right? Share, okay, switch, alternate roles. Um, we're collaborating on a mosaic. You got a section to make a flower, or, create this tree or whatever animal, the thing that's being made. So how are we communicating together in order to navigate the process of starting, laying out, so it's like the thing happens very organically. But I think that having a project where, like the whole school is going to collaborate and 500 kids are going to all work on the thing, that there's an immediate vested interest in, I'm part of the larger whole. I want to do good so that, the collective looks good around me, right? And so, to your question, well, we're in a wonky situation right now, given that people are afraid to touch each other, and the fear that everybody's a carrier is mind-boggling. We were already up against so much before a year ago. Now it's just gone exponentially more challenging. So I think we got to surf the waves of this uncertainty for a little while, but really we need to get out and work together. There's endless places that want to be cleaned up. There's plenty of cause that can be addressed. So, the creative solution to the challenge at hand, like you could look at any circumstance on the planet, and if people sit down and start to think about it creatively, how are we going to solve stopping driving? How are we going to stop, like reduce our dependency on plastics or oil or violence, you know? So I think the opportunity to be creative together could look like a lot of things. And for whatever reason, it sort of holds this taboo in society, like the taboo of being creative, the taboo of saying, I love you, the taboo of opening our heart, of being vulnerable. And that's another one, once we're creative, once we start opening our heart and sharing ourselves, there's a vulnerability, there's an honesty, there's a like, here, take a look, this is who I am, and I'm now offering it up. It's a risk, it's like, it can be a scary thing. So, it's time to overcome some of our fears of the fear of danger of, somebody's a potential risk to my well-being. Um, and so we got some work to do for sure.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I think being patient for a little while longer is going to be essential.
Yeah. Yeah, so you became a dad during during the pandemic. So
Yeah, we were in motion, so then the pandemic hit, and
yeah, so what being that this is just, I mean, you work with kids and this is such a crazy time. And so what is it like just becoming a dad right now besides the stuff you've been telling me of like absolutely no sleep
yeah,
ever?
no, it's been a roller coaster. Yeah, for those of you that are out there listening, I have a nearly 7-month-old daughter who's absolutely adorable, and she's been present since she arrived, and it's been a journey. The silver lining is I've been here. um, I was supposed to go to India in April of last year to lead a project at the Tibetan Children's Village. That got canceled, so I would have been away for that month. I was supposed to lead a mosaic project the month of May. That got canceled. So like these 2 months nearing the latter part of my wife's pregnancy, I was fully available and at home. um, and I've been here for pretty much every day of her life thus far. I've
Yeah.
been here every day of her life thus far, where, I don't have to work. Schools are closed. I'm not working. Um, the challenge is my sisters can't come visit. My wife's parents can't come visit. The friends and community that would have been more supportive and hands-on locally haven't been able to plug in. So then you carry that much more weight.
Yeah.
Um, it's been a journey, and it's been an amazing learning experience, and it's been an amazing heart opening, and um, it's been hard. It's been beautiful. It's getting fun. She's ready to crawl. She's got a whole array of sounds, and so it's a trip. It's so weird right now. I mean, life is weird, right? It's like, what are
Yeah.
we? Yeah, it's bizarre.
Life is very freaking weird.
Yeah.
Um, so with what you're saying, obviously, patience and kind of going with the flow are going to be required for a little while longer. Um, if time and money were no object right now,
Mm.
and maybe, and like say we are moving around more freely,
Right, right.
um, what project do you think we need right now? Like as a country, as a world, like you know,
Yeah,
if you could just do anything.
perfect. So we're gonna stick that in Create Peace Project, because I'm not buying a yacht and going global.
Yeah, totally. Awesome.
Uh, uh, no, so I've been envisioning something for a long time that I still want to make happen, and there's multiple projects. One is a national and international Billboards for Peace project, where students collaborate on creating a work of art that has a simple, uplifting slogan as the message, and we take over billboard spaces and put kids' art across the planet. Take back the media, basically. Like, enough of the capitalistic, consumeristic agenda. Let's put some peace and love and positive messages out there for people to gravitate towards. We move in the direction of the things that we see. So if we could put kids' art on the billboards across the globe, I would do that. And I also want to build, you know, art and healing centers focused on permaculture and sustainable off-grid living, music, dance, yoga, meditation, healing arts, creative arts centers that teach people how to garden and work with their hands and create things together, and create these peace centers. Places that people can live, places that people can visit, places that people can, stay for a month and come learn. But yeah, build a network of peace hubs around the globe. Um,
Sounds pretty good.
yeah, and I think it's still realistic. I don't see why it can't happen. Um,
Hell yeah.
yeah.
Well, we should start by doing a Peace Day event together because that's I think that's how I became Facebook friends with you. I figured it out.
Oh.
It is 2 years ago. My husband, who's on the call, Danny. and I
Hey
were
Dan.
looking for a new looking for a new URL for our like a Peace Day event that we've been doing for like probably the past 5 years, 6 years. Um, and so we were looking through all the options. We were like, we want to do create peace. What what's create peace already? And so I was looking at all of the organizations to see
Uh-huh.
like because a lot of them they don't, it'll be like they're using that URL, but it's not really like in use actually.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, this one looks awesome. And then I think it was just then that somebody later tagged you that I knew, tagged you and said create peace. And I was like, wait, I know the person who has
There
that
we
thing.
go.
So I think that's how it happened. But hell yeah, no, totally. I think it's totally possible. I think it's totally possible, especially when we realize like what you're saying. We realize kind of everybody has power to create something, in this, and it's not like you have to be like dedicating every waking moment to something to like move the boulder forward,
Right.
and like just start moving things in a positive direction.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I put 10 years as a labor of love into Create Peace Project, and then about 6 years or so ago, things really just started to click into place, and you know, word of mouth and referrals, and the work has just like continued. And it, there were schools lined up. Like I had like 10 or 12 schools that wanted projects, and 2 grants fulfilled, and and none of it's whatever. It's all on pause for now. But and the other project I want to add is that I want to shoot a documentary. I want to like harness the voices of kids from around the globe, um, sharing their vision for peace and their messages of peace. And because like I've bounced around and I've been in Uganda and India and Nepal and these places, and like there's kind of a consistency in the hearts and minds of the kids that I would love to share through film, because it's so potent, it's so beautiful. um, so at some point maybe take the family on the global tour and do projects, and ask kids, well, how do we create peace? What do we do? What does it look like for you to create peace in your home, school, community, right? Like,
Bia can be the interviewer.
yeah, Bia will be the Bia will be the face of.
No, I think that could be so cool because that's one of my favorite parts about the Tree of Life video is just seeing the kids talk about it and being
Yeah,
like, this is at my school and it's so amazing. It's so cute. Like we're part of a community and it's like, it's just amazing to hear them saying it, and through their own voices, like you said. So,
yeah, and I think that's key, right? Like, and I think it's important for adults too, is like, you matter, right? Like, your voice matters, and who you are and what's inside your heart matters. And um let's hear it. And I think that's a perfect segue into like the project that I launched as a response to the COVID, sending everybody home. Was um I created this website called morelovemorepeace.com, and the idea was that people would create a work of art and share their message of peace and upload it onto this website, and you'd be able to pin yourself on the map and comment on other people's works of art and such. And given the circumstance and a baby's arrival, the project kind of paused, but it's there, it's ready to go, and it wants some attention and it wants a little facelift. But yeah, I think there's an opportunity to spark some engagement online right now. I mean, there's enough distraction. Like, why not have a little simple, here's an art activity for you to share what's real for you, and answer a couple questions about how we make positive changes for the future. See what happens.
hell yeah.
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 morelovemorepeace.com.
I love it. More love, more peace.
That's right.
So if people want to get involved with your work or in general collective art making, how can they get engaged?
Right. So I'm available to support people who want to facilitate a project in their community, if making a mural or leading an art program of some kind was of interest, I'm happy to consult or, you know, provide some insight on how that might go. Um, there's a lot of, you know, our projects are on our website on createpeaceproject.org. So, you know, people can pick and choose from the different things there. You know, it'd be cool if people wanted to plug into the More Love, More Peace project. And I'm like totally delinquent in giving it proper promotion, but it's there as well. It's a great one for kids if they're looking for an activity for their kids to do a writing exercise and a painting or a drawing and upload it. But yeah, I think there are those couple of ways right now. And then once things get moving again, I think it's time to build a team of collaborators and facilitators who want to help, you know, spread the love and spread the peace and do more programs in more communities, because there's plenty of need and there's plenty of schools that don't bring the arts in a proper way. Um, you know, so happy to facilitate and collaborate with people who are interested in doing similar things.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Ross, for coming. I know it's a big deal to, to be able to get away for a minute at this
Crazy.
point,
It
but
shouldn't be a big deal, but it actually is.
yeah,
But
but I'm really glad we timed it. Just happened to time it so that you at least got a few nights of rest. And
somehow it works out.
yeah, so thank you again.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Awesome.